You're listening to LibraryCast, the library podcast with me, Jeremy Thompson Smith, Somerset Library's Outreach Officer for the Mendips, bringing to you Libraries from Home. On this week's LibraryCast, we welcome Tamsin Denbigh, clinical hypnotherapist at the Cheddar Medical Centre and also online. We're talking this week about sleep. You've become a little bit of a sleep expert. Tell us how you got into sleep help, sleep hygiene.
Sleep's always been really, really important to me. As a child, I worried if I didn't have enough sleep. And I would be very aware that if I'd had a bad night's sleep, it really affected my next day. So sleep has always been a big part of my life, what time I get to bed, how I feel the next day. And that's really gone all the way through to my adult life. And it's only recently that there's been quite a lot more media coverage around sleep and how the nation is just really sleep deprived. In fact, the stat is quite shocking that a third of the UK adults are now insomniac. That's a really high figure, and they predict that to get worse. Well, there's a few reasons really why lockdown has kind of thrown our sleep off kilter. For some people, they already slept badly, but it's got worse. But for other people, they're experiencing sleep problems for the very first time, and this has sort of really taken them by surprise. So firstly, it's kind of important to understand the physiological changes that go about when we experience uncertainty in our lives. So when we're feeling sort of challenged like that, what happens is we go into something called fight or flight mode. You might have heard of it. It's a kind of primitive response to keep us safe. And in this primitive response, we produce a lot of stress hormones. Adrenaline and cortisol are the two sort of most well-known ones. So anxiety is the core product of feeling that way, and that's causing us to stay awake. The other reason why people are experiencing sleep problems is that the disrupted routines of lockdown are affecting the way people are choosing to sleep or to exercise. But our body really needs to stick to routine. We've got something called a circadian rhythm, and it wants us to go to bed at the same time each night and wake up at the same time each morning. But we're kind of stretching all the rules around that at the moment and expecting our bodies to just work that out. But it doesn't like that.
Give us a few tips of how we can get back into a routine and improve our health and sleep well-being.
Okay, so here are some tips that I find particularly useful with the people I work with. One, yes, try and maintain a regular bedtime and waking up time in the morning. And the other consideration about that is think about what you do before you go to bed. If you're watching a sort of high adrenaline film or watching the news and it kind of makes you anxious before sleep, that's probably not going to help you get to sleep easily. It's just going to kind of raise your stress levels. So think about what you can do instead, maybe for the hour leading up to bedtime that's more relaxing. The other thing to be really aware of is that everything you consume during the day, every bit of content, like a video download, looking at an image on your phone, all that stuff has to be processed by your mind during the night. During your REM phase, which is a really interesting stage of your sleep, which is most known for when you dream, your REM stage literally sorts through all the things that you've consumed during the day and kind of tries to file them away. But what happens when we're spending more time online, as people kind of tend to do during strange times like this, is that we overload our brains with content, and our brain literally sort of is saying, stop, you're doing too much. So try and sort of be aware of how much you're looking at during the day, because the less you're putting into your brain, the more that you can unwind during the night. Try and think about some positive things before you go to sleep at night. It's really easy to kind of focus on all the difficulties going on around us. But if you spend a little bit of time just thinking about a couple of things that happened to you that were good that day, or acts of kindness that other people brought to you, that will very much help to sort of soothe and ease your mind and allow it to just get into a better place before you go to sleep. And finally, I can't emphasize enough how important exercise is. It doesn't have to be big physical exercise. It could just be going up and down the stairs 20 times, but your body needs exercise to help it stay fit and healthy and aid better sleep. So the more you can kind of build that into a daily routine, ideally in the morning when you get the best light exposure, that will really help you towards some good sleep. So try and keep the exercise going.
What intrigues me is what you do
I became a clinical hypnotherapist only recently, beginning of last year, and that started just from personal experience, that I myself developed vertigo whilst doing zip wiring on an adventure in South America. Luckily, there was a colleague I had who was a hypnotherapist who gave me some really useful tools in understanding how your mind gets into these kind of problems, gets locked into these problems, and kind of encourages repeat behaviour, and how you have to find ways to overcome that and rule your mind. So anyway, I trained as a solution-focused hypnotherapist. Now, solution-focused means that when you see me, we focus on the present and the future, and you're kind of how you want things to be rather than how you don't want them to be. So we're not really dwelling too much on past problems. And that can often be a huge relief for people who don't want to go down too much exploratory routes around their past. They just want to move on and be freed from some of the stuff that's kind of caused some problems in the past. And
where can we find more about you, Tamsin?
Well, you can find more on my website, which is tamsindenbighhypnotherapy.com. On my website, I also offer a free relaxation download, which anybody's welcome to have a go at. Relaxation is such an important, integral part of our day. If we could just find ways to unwind our mind in the same way that we kind of look after our physical health by doing exercise, you'd really notice the benefits. We all live in such a busy world.
Everyone I meet in my social group online these days says, I need 8 hours sleep a day. I can't focus. I can't do anything without 8 hours sleep. Is that actually correct?
Dr. Neil Stanley is also a very successful author of a sleep book, and he says, no, it's not essential. It's just the amount of sleep that makes you feel good. So I think the jury's out on that one. I think the most important thing is to have a healthy respect for why sleep matters, to understand that it literally is restoring you physically and mentally every night. And without that, we just aren't getting all the amazing things that it can do for us. So I think respecting it and allowing yourself to have as much good sleep as you can is certainly the most important part.
Tamsin Denbigh, thank you so much for joining us on LibraryCast.
Oh, I've got a dog and a good dog too, and it keeps him in me keeping, for to catch those hares that run by night while the gamekeepers lie asleeping. My dog and me went out one night for to learn some education. Up jumped a hare and away she ran, right into some large plantation. She had not gone so very far before something stopped her running. Oh, and oh, she loudly cried, stop a minute, your uncle's coming. Oh, I took out my little penknife and quickly I did punch her. She turned out one of the female kind. How glad am I caught her. I picks her up and I smooths her down and I puts her in me keeping. I says to me dog, it's time to be going while the gamekeepers lie asleeping. Away me and my dog did go back into the town. We took that hare to a labouring man and we sold it for a crown. We went into some public house and there we got quite mellow, for we spent that crown and another one too. Don't you think I'm a good-hearted fellow? Oh, I've got a dog and a good dog too, and it keeps him in me keeping, for to catch those hares that run by night while the gamekeepers lie asleeping.
You're listening to LibraryCast for Mental Health Awareness Week, brought to you by Somerset Libraries. You've just heard While Gamekeepers Lie Sleeping by Ninebarrow, and we welcome John and Jay. So it seems to me, we're talking about sleep health this week, and it seems to me that the gamekeeper is sleeping pretty well while poachers are on the land taking rabbits.
Perhaps a little bit too well, yeah, unfortunately for him. But,
So, Jay, you're a GP, and you must have noticed that there is a greater sense of anxiety than we've ever had for years and years and years in your daytime work. What have you noticed in your daytime job in terms of mental health and well-being? And also, are there any tips that you've noticed through your musical world, but also through your professional world as a GP, that can help us to stay mentally healthy?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, you're absolutely right. There is such a spike at the moment, with problems with anxiety, with depression. Sometimes it's anxiety about your job, sometimes it's about your own health or that of your family. And obviously some people have lost loved ones as well, and it's taken such a huge toll on people's mental health. But, it's so important, if you feel like that, you speak to people, because it's so easy to feel like you've got to go through it on your own. You mustn't bother people. Actually, no, it's really important to speak to people, whether it's a doctor or someone else in your family or a friend that you trust. That's absolutely the key. But, as far as music goes, I mean, singing, you can't feel bad when you're singing. Listening to some music that you love, it will always pick you up.
In 2018, you brought out your album, The Waters and the Wild, and on it is a song called Hour of the Blackbird. And you've now released that as a charity single, raising funds for Mind. Tell us about the making of that single and why it's so important that money is going towards Mind for Mental Health Awareness Week.
Well, we were due in May to be doing a concert with two amateur chamber choirs, the Heart Voices from Fleet and the Chantry Singers from Guildford. They were going to be coming down to Milton Abbey, which is just the most incredible space to make music. It is a beautiful building. So when we were putting this together, we didn't really know what the outcome was going to be like. And so we hadn't really chosen that we were going to do it for a charity at the beginning. But as everybody started submitting their recordings that had been done on their phones, and it started to be put together, it started sounding, with every new voice that went onto it, it started to sound better and better and better. And by the end, we decided it was too special to just release and put it out there online. And we all decided that we wanted to do something to support a charity during a time when charities are generally finding life very difficult, along with many, many industries and areas. Lots of charities have seen their level of donations drop. And a charity like mine, as Jay has already said, the isolation and the anxiety brought about by the pandemic, they're doing some very, very important work at the moment. And many of the choir members suggested it as a charity that we might like to be able to support.
What made you choose that particular song to release as your charity single?
I just love it. But it always makes me happy. That's one of those songs that always makes me happy to sing. And I think Roy, when we asked him, which one do you think we could use to make the project, he chose that one as well. And we just loved his arrangements for the choir as well. It's so intricate, beautiful, and yeah, it just worked so well. And it's got that special, meaning, I think, that fits really nicely with Mental Health Week. It's heavy clouds that threaten rain in the middle of it, but then at the end of it, you banish the thoughts of rain, and the sun comes out and the birds are singing, and yeah, it's a bit of a pick-me-up.
To mention the single, how can we find it? How can we donate? And how do we find more information about Ninebarrow?
Okay, so I mean, there's a page set up for the single at the website, at our website. So it's ninebarrow.co.uk/mind, and you can download the track for free there. And you can also make donations, feel able to do so, and those can be done through our Just Giving page, and those will go directly to mine.
Oh, the afternoon, both calm and still, the hedgerow bare beneath the hill, above the oak tree's lofty frame, heavy from the holly bush above the throng. He greets them with his vernal song. From the olive trees across the dell, a choir of voices starts to swell and vanish. Now the thought of rain, and hail the robin king again.
So to find out more information, go on to Ninebarrow's Facebook page, their webpage. And if you're interested in learning more about Mind, all you need to do is go onto a webpage and just type into Google mind.org.uk. You have been listening to Ninebarrow, and you have been listening to LibraryCast, brought to you by Somerset Libraries.